Hey guys, welcome back to this week's video. Our first few videos have been aimed at providing you with really important foundational financial principles. To be successful, one has to get the basics right. These principles are ingrained in us and have been an important catalyst to us achieving financial independence. We trust they will add value to your financial journey too. Okay, let's dive right in.
The first money habit for financial success is to always maintain a high income to expense ratio. This means ensuring that your expenses are kept substantially lower than your earnings, which results in you having surplus cash in your budget each month. The more you earn and the lower you can keep your expenses, the better your income to expense ratio will be. Now, why is this so important? Having surplus cash left over after all your expenses are paid is where your financial freedom journey begins. Everything is dependent on this first step. Having extra funds each month means that you can begin saving and start growing your emergency fund. As your emergency fund grows, your financial stability increases. We all have unexpected expenditure like unforeseen medical bills or a vehicle repair. This is just a fact of life. Having an emergency fund enables us to deal with these sorts of issues with peace of mind, and critically without having to resort to using our credit cards. An emergency fund is essential to protect us from being forced into debt, and this is only made possible through maintaining a high income to expense ratio.
Now there's another point to consider, the impact of your income to expense ratio on your ability to invest. Before you can look at any type of investment seriously, you need to be in a strong financial position. This means having control over your budget and spending behavior, as well as having some savings accumulated in your emergency fund. You simply cannot invest with peace of mind if your budget is severely strained, because you just can't afford to take on the extra risk. Imagine buying an investment property whilst having absolutely no savings and no income to spare. If anything unexpected happens, say a burst pipe, how would you repair it? In this case, not having any savings would put your investment at risk. If you can't perform the repair, you may lose your tenant. This would put you under a lot of pressure to finance the monthly running costs of the property out of your own pocket. And if you can't pay the mortgage, this may ultimately result in you losing the property.
Okay, so how do we maintain a high income to expense ratio? Where most people fail is increasing their living costs as their salary increases. It's a mistake to allow your earnings to dictate what your expenses will be. In other words, if you get into the habit of always spending 100% of your income, it doesn't matter if you earn $1,000 or $10,000 per month. Your expense ratio will be the same. Although your lifestyle may be more comfortable if you're earning $10,000 per month, you still won't be able to accumulate wealth by saving or investing, because you'll be operating your budget at full capacity. One of the ways I kept my expenses in check was by not upgrading to a new apartment. I lived in the same small apartment for more than 10 years. As my earnings grew over time, I resisted the temptation to move into a bigger, more luxurious home. And this allowed me to not just maintain a high income to expense ratio, but actually to increase it over time. I could save and invest more simply by keeping my biggest monthly cost, my rent payments, extremely low. If you haven't read the brilliant book titled The Millionaire Next Door, you really should. We'll leave a link to the book in the description below. But here's the punchline. You can earn much less than your neighbor, but still accumulate wealth far quicker than them. So always remember, it's not just about how much you earn each month. What matters most is how high you keep your income to expense ratio.
The second money habit for financial success is to keep tight control over your money. One of the worst financial mistakes you can make is allowing a disconnect to form between your spending behavior and your financial reality. What do we mean by this? Well, if you aren't using some form of budget and regularly reviewing your bank accounts, there's a good chance that you may not fully be in tune with your finances. We had a friend who confessed that she never looked at her bank statements. She felt intimidated and afraid to face her financial reality. So she just lived month to month in the blind hope that she wouldn't run out of money before payday. It goes without saying that this is the complete opposite of good financial management. A colleague of mine recently discovered multiple fraudulent debit orders coming off her accounts each month. She had no idea. This serves as a reminder that if you don't control your finances, it won't be long before your finances control you.
Now, remember that a budget is a correcting mechanism. It's a way to connect you to your financial reality, enabling you to make informed financial decisions and avoid potential financial problems. If used properly, a budget is an excellent early warning system. It lets you know if you're overspending and unlikely to make it through to payday. This allows you to change your spending behavior before you run out of money and before you're forced to use your credit card for the rest of the month. By regularly reviewing your bank statements and staying in tune with your finances, you also ensure that you don't become complacent with your expenditure. It's easy to waste money on things you don't really need when you're totally disconnected from your bank accounts.
An example of losing money due to complacency would be things like old subscription services or memberships which you no longer use. Or perhaps you weren't aware of just how much you were actually spending on certain bills each month, like your phone or utility accounts. And because of this, you never gave yourself the opportunity of lowering the costs, either through changing service providers or changing your spending habits. If you don't stay intimately familiar with your finances, you'll almost certainly incur wasted costs over time, spend more money than you need to, and slowly slip into debt. So never allow a disconnect to form between your spending habits and your financial reality. Stay connected and stay in control.
The third money habit for financial success is to avoid falling into the short-term debt trap. We hear this a lot. It's nothing new. Debt is bad. Don't make purchases on credit. Pay down your debt. It's obvious. We all know that we shouldn't be using debt to pay the bills or to make expensive purchases we can't actually afford with our monthly income alone. So why do we do it? Now, obviously, we don't always have a choice. Unforeseen things happen, and if we haven't managed to accumulate an emergency fund, obviously we're left with no option but to use debt as a survival tool. But what we're trying to draw attention to is the increasing trend to use debt for lifestyle expenditure, such as that new flat-screen TV, luxury holidays, or a new wardrobe.
And we know it's far easier to speak about the theory of financial discipline than it is to execute in practice, especially when you have irresponsible banks and financial institutions practically throwing credit at you. The trick, however, is to simply not play their game. If you can operate your finances responsibly enough that you never require debt to get by, you're already miles ahead of the average person. Short-term debt like credit cards, personal loans, and store accounts are the most expensive kind of debt. You can easily pay upwards of 20 to 25% per annum in interest charges, and this puts major pressure on your budget each month. As you rack up more and more small debts over time, each with exorbitant interest rate charges, you squeeze your disposable income tighter and tighter over time. And eventually you're forced to start using new debt to pay for existing debt repayments.
We've seen some of our friends struggle with this exact thing over the years. It's really not a good position to be in. What you want to do is avoid this vicious debt cycle in the first place. Never use debt for lifestyle expenditure. You put yourself on the back foot immediately. Instead, save for what you want and buy it outright. It may mean that you need to delay a purchase a little in some cases, but you won't be putting your financial well-being at risk over the long run. And this should be the priority. Never jeopardize your financial stability over a short-term impulsive purchase. There's a saying that goes, if you can't afford to buy it twice, you can't afford it. This is a good rule to live by.
The fourth money habit for financial success is to normalize speaking about money and finances. Society today likes to promote the idea that speaking about money is rude or contentious. We are told growing up that we shouldn't discuss it at the dinner table, or that it's impolite to discuss it with friends. And the schooling system has very little focus, if any, on the topic of personal finance and investing. As a result, so many of us grow up being taught that money is something that we just don't really talk much about or place too much emphasis on.
And this, in our opinion, is utter madness. Money is such a crucial part of all of our lives. Every single individual, no matter who you are or what profession you end up in, needs money to function. We spend all day working for money, We rely on money for everything we own and use. Money is essential to our survival both in the short term and the long term in retirement, yet we shouldn't discuss it in any meaningful way or be expected to learn about it at school. It just doesn't make any sense. How can you prioritize your financial well-being if you avoid the topic of money like the plague? How will you ever be financially free if you can't bear to hold a conversation around money?
We'd like to encourage you to challenge these strange notions and normalize talking about money. Ask your friends what they invest in and why. Share some money-saving tips with your parents over lunch. Speak to your siblings about business ideas and encourage each other to succeed. My father's business involved seeing farmers every day. And while he delivered their veterinary medicine, he took every opportunity he could to share with them what he was learning in the financial sphere. Now, years later, he constantly gets messages from these clients he befriended, thanking him for what a huge impact he's had on their lives. So why are we not using every opportunity we can to draw off each other's knowledge and experience? Failures or successes alike, there's so much value to be gained through open financial discussion with those around us. Sometimes all it takes is for one person to start the conversation. So be that person.
The fifth money habit for financial success is to own your financial well-being. In the majority of the developed world today, we are fortunate to have access to an array of financial professionals ranging from bankers to brokers to investment managers. And there certainly is value in what many of these professionals bring to the table. The problem, however, is that the system encourages you to put complete trust in these third parties, and it discourages you from taking personal responsibility for your own money. And we'd like to caution against this. No one cares more about your money than you do. We want to encourage you to think carefully about simply handing your financial decision-making to others. Whilst it may be the quote-unquote normal thing to do these days, it does not necessarily make it the optimal strategy for you.
In our experience, if you want to achieve financial independence and ultimately financial freedom, you're going to need to make decisions to take complete personal responsibility over your money. This starts through financial education. If you're here watching this video now, you're doing just that, so well done. Make a habit of trying to accumulate a little financial education every day, whether it be through watching a YouTube video, listening to a podcast, or reading. If you're serious about achieving financial freedom, empowering yourself with financial knowledge is key. Before you know it, you will no longer feel the urge to outsource any of your financial decision-making, because you will have the confidence and the ability to forge your own path. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this week's video, please consider dropping us a like. It will really help us out. And feel free to spread the love by sharing this video with someone who will benefit from it.
We've got some exciting content planned, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. See you in the next video.